Hello, everyone. Nathan Sivu here. So, one of the topics that I want to talk about this week was in regards to emulation and preservation. See, I've been for the longest time quite an advocate for playing games on original hardware and all that kind of thing, like playing Super Nintendo games on an actual console rather than through either a virtual marketplace, kind of like the Nintendo Online store for the Switch, or playing through an emulator, that kind of thing. I've always preferred the original hardware, but something has kind of happened recently that has changed my tune a little bit. A while back, I started a playthrough of Super Metroid, and it was fun. It was amazing to play on original hardware and everything. But then when I went to pick it up on the next session, it turned out that the battery in the cartridge was kaput. I had to replace a new one, which meant that all my save files were wiped, unfortunately. So that's a bit too bad. So I was kind of gearing up to restart that series, but then something even worse happened. The Controller 1 port on the Super Nintendo is completely fucked. Basically, you'll press one button and it will interpret it as multiple inputs of either the same button, or it'll press down multiple times. I'm basically trying to select my save file, and instead it'll jump right to the bottom of the menu and take me to the options screen. It's totally screwed. There's just absolutely no way for me to play any game out of the Controller 1 port on my Super Nintendo. I tried multiple games, all screwed. All totally screwed. And I was actually... and so, that really sucked. And I was watching a video that on the Colors of Gaming channel, who you should all follow, and they talked about, at one point, about 90% of all film, actual movie film, is gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. It's all deteriorated. And I don't know, as somebody who likes the idea of preserving things and keeping things for either entertainment purposes or historical purposes, or that type of archiving, that kind of gave me a little bit of a heart attack, a little bit of a panic attack at the idea that all the film's gone, or almost all the film's gone. And we're on the verge of facing a similar crisis, I think, with retro games, because all the Super Nintendos are really, really old, and soon to follow that will be all of the Nintendo 64s, and then before you know it, it'll be PS3s, and so on and so forth. And so that's why I've started to get more into the idea of finding a way to either archive or emulate games that I've already got, like what you're seeing on the screen right now is Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, run through the Dolphin emulator. I own this game. I have a physical copy of it. I've had it for a very, very long time. And I could play it on my Wii, but here's the thing. Even something like the GameCube or the Wii, one day, all the Wiis are going to die too, because the laser inside that reads the CD is not going to be able to read the CD anymore. It's just going to be fucked, and the game will stutter and stop, and the game will fail. And so slowly over time, we're going to see all these games starting to fail. That will be the case unless we can archive them. And so I know that there are some places that have done a good job at archiving, ROMs and stuff like that. And for legal reasons, I'm just going to cover my ass here. I can't exactly tell you where to find those. I could actually get myself in a lot of trouble if I did that. I also kind of have to legally cover my ass and say that you should do this for archiving purposes. You shouldn't do this to obtain games that you don't own or have never owned. So let's just get that out of the way and protect myself a little bit. So yeah, I want to do that with all of the with all the old games that I've got, so that it doesn't get lost to the sands of time, so to speak. And I've been able to do that with a good portion of the games that I own for GameCube, because I found a particularly good place for obtaining them all. And some games run better than others. Some run fine and then spontaneously fail, but that's just because my computer is kind of shitty. I find Eternal Darkness runs mostly well on my computer. And then I tried Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, which was working well for a while, but then there was a level where it snowed, and boy oh boy did it chug along. I had it bumped up to 720p, because you can also upscale on these things. I had to bring it back down to native resolution in order to, make it somewhat playable again and not have the audio annoy the shit out of me, because the audio was cutting in and out. So regardless of performance, regardless of whether or not the game actually runs well, I'll continue to archive games that I've got for my own personal storage, because, one day I will likely have a computer that is better than this one, or I'll upgrade this computer, and then these games will run like a dream. Hell, I might be able to run some of these games at 4K. Not that the texture maps contained inside are in 4K or anything, but the anti-aliasing looks pretty fucking sweet when you do it that way. And yeah, so, and this kind of extends beyond games too. Like, I want to do this with games that I own. I want to do this with movies that I own. Maybe even books. Like that. So that way, if if something horrible happened, like if my house burned down, and I just happen to grab my hard drive, or even if I've got it on some kind of cloud storage, at least I didn't lose my entire library of games, of movies, of books. At least I've got them in some form or another. But yeah, I especially sort of got into this with movies that I own too, because they're starting to release other editions of movies where they're sorry to derail the video like that. I sort of got stuck in a menu. Anyway, they're starting to fuck with some movies, like they're starting to selectively edit parts out, or they're making new editions of movies, so then when you go to buy it, there's like either a bunch of new scenes or scenes taken away, and I just fucking hate that shit. Especially if it's a classic movie and they edit something out because it was deemed quote unquote offensive, even though who cares? But so yeah, basically I just kind of, for those of you who aren't doing this already, I kind of wanted to extend this idea to you to try and archive things that you own. It might be a good idea. You might be glad that you did it. And consider, and I'm not an expert on the topic, of course, but consider various forms of backup. I'm sure there's one called Mega. It's like a cloud storage thing that gives you 50 gigs for free up front, unless you can get a paid membership, which will allow you to have more gigs. But 50 gigs is pretty generous for free. And it's actually all encrypted. So it's end-to-end encryption, so that the owners of the site don't actually, know what it is that you have, which kind of keeps it private. Kind of a similar idea to Proton Mail, how they don't know what's going on in your emails. And I believe Proton is actually coming out with a cloud storage as well that's, private and encrypted and all that. For your own archiving purposes, you might want to consider doing something like that. You might want to consider physical backups on external hard drives as well as cloud storage. So that way you've got your own little personal archive of all the things you like. All the things, I should rephrase that, all the things that you own. Yeah, because I think personally, if something happened to my GameCube or my hard copy of Eternal Darkness, and it literally wasn't possible for me to play that game anymore. I don't know. That'd bum me out quite a bit. I think archiving is important, and I would say, in terms of the importance of archiving, I'd say it's even more important to archive books for obvious reasons. And, gee, how shall I say this? I want to be careful how I say this. In the world of censorship and both physical and digital book burning, you might be glad to have multiple copies of your books. I'll just say it that way. So I think I've pretty much covered everything that I want to say in this video. And in terms of emulation and such, depending on what I'm emulating, like if it's of a Super Nintendo game that I've got, or in this case a GameCube game, that if it runs well enough for me, I think I might do Let's Plays specifically on my emulator just for ease, because recording off an emulator is way easier than hooking up an Elgato to a retro system, especially when your retro system is across the other side of the room. So that's probably how I'm going to resume my Super Metroid playthrough. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that. I might do it soon. And since I'll be starting over, I might just say fuck it and make it easier on myself. And I know I'm 4 episodes in, but fuck it. I'll just have the series start over again, just so that I don't have to fucking edit down to exactly where I was in the game. But I think I'm starting to ramble now. I've pretty much said everything that I want to say, and I hope you got something out of this. I hope this gives you ideas of things that you want to archive, and books, movies, and games that you've got that you want to back up of. So please do that before things that you care about are lost to the sands of time. I'm Nathan Sifu Gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.